Hello! Welcome back to Fae Tactics. We got an unusual sort of battle here. Well, I wouldn't say completely unusual, but a battle that stands out. The boss is ice, which means a couple of things. We'll want a fire Fae, certainly. And I'd like to level up that Barn Reaper that we just got. That shouldn't be difficult. Its movement enchantment should be pretty useful for us. Also, Ice has an advantage against Earth element enemies, which means that our overpowered NPC comrade is not actually going to help us very much against the boss. We'll have to do that work ourselves. I'm sure she will be able to help us against the smaller enemies, though. As for this new spell, I've been thinking about whether I should put it in my list, although unfortunately I have to say I'm being a little indecisive about it. A magic barrier boost is universally helpful, even if no one has taken damage yet. Although, considering that it takes 5 turns to cool down, it's unlikely that no one has taken damage at that point. But nonetheless, we might get some advantage out of it. Also, since I have a wind enchanter, the haste spell is probably not going to be necessary for this composition. And as always, gotta remember to spend those trait points. Oh well. I don't think there's really any need to switch Squirrels right now. We've got a decent variety of enemies, so arcane attacks for Peony are probably the best overall. I have a specific plan for this boss. I want to get that squirrel up and around on that on those heights to the left. There's a couple reasons for this. One is, of course, the shiny treasure chest. And that's a pretty good way of getting the player's attention, because those heights are going to be important tactically as well. Everyone else is going to move down the middle. As for the boss itself, well, it's got some boss advantages that go beyond the usual enemy leader. It's nothing too overwhelming. It is, after all, the first boss that we've encountered, but it is a notable difference. Also, switching variants also gives a Fae a different passive ability, and Wrath is a pretty nice one for what I'm doing. So what would be a fast way to deal with this Gremlin Shaman? A rare chance to use healing. We haven't really had the need for that these last few missions, but that's because they've either been tutorial missions or missions where our hand is being held by that centaur of ours. Although there was that starving mission which we needed the healing a lot, but let's not worry about that. We haven't seen a whole lot of counterattacks in this game, have we? They require specific abilities, and not all that easy to trigger. For example, that protection that Chico has, where it intercepts attacks meant for allies, if that attack is melee, Chico will counterattack, but a whole lot of enemies in this game use ranged attacks, so we don't really see that a whole lot. Well, just making decisions on who to finish off that enemy, although I need to emphasize in this game, unlike, say, Shining Force, it's not that big of a deal. There's plenty of other ways to get experience. And shooting down birds with massive overkill, as Orowantis usually does. Well, heal that you can use anywhere on the map seems pretty nice. Very low cooldown as well. Well, an ineffective element, but it had some other, some other bonuses so that it would at least do a little damage. The bird's eye thing, of course, and being anti-air, which is a big advantage. And now I'm thinking, should I split the party? I want to move the boss a specific number of tiles forward. As I said, got a plan. But first things first, let's get that treasure chest when we have the chance. I think it's important to get rid of these enemies early and then just move everyone forward into the ravine where they're going to face down the boss. Also, don't forget the scrolls. It's kind of easy to ignore those and get carried away. But even if it's a scroll you have, in fact, especially if it's a scroll you have, it could be important to pick those up. I think there's a limit to how high you can rank them up, and I'm not sure what happens in that case. Do they just stop dropping? Well, with this, our squirrel is within range for the tile I wanted to move later, so yeah, there was really no need to worry about that Barn Reaper that was hanging around in back. It would have been a mistake to have Chico go after it. Alright. Almost ready. Let's put down our movement buff. That's going to be useful for positioning. Now, Heralia starts out with True Sight, which is why the ice monster next to it didn't put an ice shield on it, which is very good news for us, because we don't want the boss to be immune to critical hits. Yes, well, that looked a little different, didn't it? That's because it's a beam attack, and those can hit multiple enemies along a line, and I'm fairly sure that you've seen attacks that affect more than one opponent are pretty rare. Fiona can do it, but it takes an extra it takes a turn to charge it up first. This boss can just do that whenever. Now remember how I said Bird's Eye gives really powerful attack bonuses? And you know how the squirrel had been building up attack power through that Wrath skill? And how I set it up for a back attack? Well, if there's anything in this game that warrants a Fire Emblem critical sound, it would be something like that. And then the squirrel gets frozen with no way to unfreeze him easily, but that's okay. One hit with damage like that is plenty for this boss. We can follow up on that. Yep. Now that the magic barrier is not there anymore, any old attack will still deal full damage. Though, this boss does still have Whirlwind, so we gotta make sure that we keep doing the back attacks whenever possible. And that last movement by the boss made it fairly easy. Even got a bird's eye on it. On the bird. Oh well. And that's that. I like how the game kind of leads you along the right direction for knocking down this boss by putting the treasure up on that high ground, which is also nice for sniping. I imagine that later bosses are not put in such convenient arenas. Oh, we got emotions involved. Usually that emotion. Useful information, huh? The important information is, taking you down was so easy. Wasn't that funny? Hilarious. Okay, that makes you want to spare me now, right? And I'm... that's not actually the reason, of course. That's the reason. That's the reason the information is important, that is. And given what we've seen of this particular setting, a food-growing magic item seems like one of the more valuable things to have. I don't know if it's Fallout bad here, but it's pretty bad. Sounds like an antagonist for later. And that's the end of this particular storyline. Although, of course, we're likely to see this character later. Not immediately, though. We'll have a couple other things to do first. But before we go that far, I have a question for the viewers. Now that you've seen most of the mechanics and what a boss fight might look like, do you want to keep going with Fae Tactics? I have to warn you, this is a long game. There are a lot of side quests and other things to do aside from the main story, and it adds up to a lot of hours. I kind of overextended myself with Shining Force back when, and before I go any further, I'd say this is an okay time to say, hey, this is a sneak peek at Fae Tactics, and we can end it there. Or we can go through the whole thing. I don't know exactly how many videos that's gonna be, but it's gonna be a lot, so I'd like the viewers to think pretty carefully about just how much Fae Tactics they'd like to see. I have a few other games in mind in the future, so it's no real hardship to me if you want to switch out. It's also, however, no real hardship if you want to keep going. I am perfectly okay with this game, and if it wasn't going to be part of a series, I'd play it myself. So please do not keep my preferences in mind. That's not really the point here. Well, having dealt with the bandits, the next step, if we decide to go on with the next step, is to journey to the next town anyway, because even though we cleared out the bandits, new supplies are not likely to arrive instantly, and traveling to the next town might provide better results. Oh yes, well, we also got a new fire scroll, which is going to be helpful if we need to change Peony's element. And, well, I think that's just about all to say for now. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the videos so far. I will see you next time. Later.